Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Mindful Morning. How to make failing feel safe. So how do you make failing feel safe? How do you handle setbacks? How do you keep going when you have blows to your confidence and you feel like maybe you should quit or maybe this was never possible in the first place? That's what this episode is all about today. And I have to say, that pretty much everybody I've ever worked with in coaching has come up against this feeling of failure at one point or another. Just because I think that the kind of person that comes to coaching is somebody who wants to be challenged, someone who wants to go outside their comfort zone and, challenge themselves towards goals and relationships that really matter to them. And I think that when you do that, you do inevitably open yourself up to the risk of failing. Now, normally, when our society thinks of failure, we think of failure as being almost like an end point. We think, we tried something, it didn't go well, and we failed, the end. But if you actually look up failure in the dictionary, you'll see that there's no mention of failure as an endpoint at all. In fact, it just means that it didn't go as expected. You didn't get your desired result. So there still is a possibility to continue, to keep going, to pursue that image, that picture that you have in your mind. But if you're going to do that, how do you form a relationship with failure so that you make it safe for yourself to possibly fail along the way as you're achieving your goal, approaching your goals? So I have 4 ideas on how to make failure safe that I want to share with you. And the first is that I think we have to approach failing approach our goals with the expectation of it being like an experiment. So when we approach things like an experiment, we are willing to fail. The possibility of failing is within the realm. We're not approaching it from a place of perfectionism. We are trial and error until we figure it out. Full disclosure, this is pretty much what I'm doing for myself every day with Mindful Morning, aren't I? I'm getting up and talking to you live during the week about topics that are important to me, based on my personal and professional experience, based on what the research says about mental health and well-being. But I am putting these episodes together and I am putting them out there without actually knowing how it's going to go and if it's going to be well received. And that's not the part that is in my control. The only thing that I have any control over is preparing the episodes, putting it out there, and then waiting for your feedback to tell me how it's going. So approaching the things that matter to us in a way that is like an experiment, I think sets us up to be willing to fail and to be more resilient in the face of it. The second thing I would say is that we have to be willing to keep going because failure is normally a prerequisite for success. I don't care what it is that you're challenging yourself to do, whatever goal you've set for yourself, most of the time, failing is a prerequisite to success, and sometimes failing multiple times. I think, I would be willing to bet, actually, that if you had it figured out, if you knew how to do this thing perfectly, you probably wouldn't feel very motivated to try in the first place. I think that there's something about our human nature that makes us passionate about pursuing things that we also find equally terrifying. So a prerequisite to success is normally dealing with failure. The third thing I would say is to normalize the feeling of failure. The feeling of failure it's painful and it hurts, and that's normal. We normally see pain as something we should avoid or get rid of, and I think that's a very self-limiting perspective of pain. Life involves pain, and a life worth living involves the possibility of pain. But normally when we fail at something and it feels really painful, physically painful, our mind normally wants to turn that into something bigger. It starts to label that as us being a failure. It goes beyond the situation itself and it personalizes it. So I like to recognize when this is happening, to catch it and label it as story spinning. Whenever I see somebody story spinning, they're basically turning this failure into something bigger beyond the actual facts. I think it's important when you stick to the facts, it's easier to open up, to have some self-compassion, to learn from the situation and to try again, to learn and to try again. The fourth way I'd say of making failure safe is to identify 2 or 3 personal qualities that you can embody as you go about achieving your goals. For example, I've been coaching for the last 5 years, but I've never owned my own business before. This puzzle piece is something I am just figuring out as I go. But I know that so long as I am going about it with patience, consistency, and authenticity, I will inevitably fall on my face. I will screw it up. I will learn, but I will be able to continue. I'll figure it out eventually, and I'll be proud of myself as I go. So, what are 2 or 3 qualities that you can embody that will help you be resilient, that will help you handle setbacks and keep going? I think those qualities to identify and to pursue consciously are really important. So, those are my 4 ideas about how to make failing safe. The first is to approach anything that's important to you as an experiment and allow yourself to have failure be a part of the possibility, to not get caught up in perfectionism. The second is to see failure as a prerequisite for success. You probably wouldn't be pursuing this in the first place if it didn't challenge you enough. The third is to normalize the feeling of failure, to normalize the pain of failure, to know that this, it's hurtful, it's painful, but that's okay. And the fourth is to identify 2 or 3 2 or 3 personal qualities that you can embody as you go about pursuing this thing that's important to you. So allow those things to help you be resilient along the way. I'm going to put these 4 ideas in the Mindful Morning Toolbox, and as well as some questions to help you go a little deeper into these ideas and figure out how you can apply them in your own life. So if you're not opted into the Mindful Morning Toolbox, you can follow the link and click on there and get opted in and get started on that. Inside the toolbox are all the actionable resources, cheat sheets, and exercises that go along with these episodes to help you apply them. And please leave a comment, write a review, share this with other people. If you're enjoying these episodes of Mindful Morning, I would really appreciate your feedback so I can see where I can shift and learn and keep going and help as many people as I can. Okay, y'all, I'll see you tomorrow. Have a great day.